Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. Look, if you're a focused learner, you're in the right place. Because today we're tackling something that affects literally every single one of us. We're diving into this incredibly fascinating concept from our source material called the architecture of focus. If you've ever felt like your brain just totally refuses to engage with the work sitting right in front of you, and you're sitting there, I don't know, blaming your own lack of willpower, or maybe wondering if you just didn't get enough sleep, well, the source text suggests you might actually be looking at the completely wrong culprit. Instead of blaming yourself, you really should be looking at your surroundings.
Think about that feeling for a second. You know the exact one I'm talking about. You sit down to work or study or write, and before you've even read a single word, there's this invisible resistance. It feels like you're wading through molasses. Suddenly, out of nowhere, you find yourself desperately needing to check an email or reorganize your pen cup or honestly just stare blankly at the wall. So what actually causes this mental friction? Well, it isn't necessarily a lack of motivation at all. It's actually an environmental hurdle that your brain is struggling to jump over before the real work has even begun.
All right, moving right along to Section 1, Architecture of Focus, and how we actually go about building concentration.
So the central thesis here is that deep concentration, it isn't just some accidental state of mind that magically happens to lucky people. It's something we intentionally build. And what's absolutely fascinating is the use of that specific word, architecture. The source material doesn't call it the habit of focus or some quick trick to get focused. Architecture implies a highly deliberate step-by-step construction of our mental workspace. Think about it. An architect doesn't just throw a bunch of random materials onto an empty plot of land and, cross their fingers hoping a skyscraper magically appears. No way. They draft a blueprint. They purposefully arrange the physical elements to create a space that serves a very specific function. And according to our text, we've got to do the exact same thing with our cognitive workspace. We literally have to become the architects of our own concentration.
Which brings us nicely to Section 2, the pre-study ritual, focusing on our physical setup. Now, to really understand how we build this architecture, we have to zoom all the way in from that grand macro concept down to a highly specific physical action. And the text calls this the pre-study ritual. Notice the wording here. This setup process is absolutely required before working. This isn't positioned as just some, nice-to-have bonus for when you feel like arranging your desk to take an aesthetically pleasing photo. Not at all. The source presents this ritual as a foundational prerequisite. By establishing a physical ritual, you are sending a massive, undeniable signal to your brain that playtime is officially over and the state of deep work has commenced. You are laying the literal groundwork for the cognitive heavy lifting that's about to follow.
And honestly, the ritual is shockingly simple, but it carries massive weight. Step 1, a clean table. Step 2, only essential books. That is literally it. The precise physical parameters mandated by the source material are stripped down to the absolute bare minimum. Having a clean table immediately removes competing visual stimuli. When you've got straight papers, or yesterday's graveyard of half-empty coffee mugs, or your phone glowing right there in your peripheral vision, your brain is subconsciously processing all of that clutter. And then Step 2 ruthlessly eliminates decision fatigue. If a book or resource isn't actively required for the exact task you're doing right now, it is basically a potential distraction masquerading as a tool, so get it off the desk.
Okay, let's jump into Section 3, Reducing Mental Friction, where we talk about the big payoff.
So this leads us to the ultimate psychological payoff of executing this simple ritual. When you pair a super clean, focused physical environment with your mental state, the result is completely profound. It immediately reduces mental friction and promotes incredible clarity. By actively clearing your physical space, you are actively clearing your mental space. It's a real cause and effect. That invisible resistance we talked about at the very beginning, well, that's heavily generated by the cognitive load of your brain trying to process unnecessary items in your environment. You eliminate the physical clutter, and boom, the friction just evaporates. Your mind no longer has to fight its own surroundings just to find its focus.
Reduce mental friction. It is such a powerful imperative and really the ultimate takeaway from our source material today. The entire architecture of your focus is built squarely upon the foundation of your physical reality. So, I actually want to leave you with a bit of a challenge right now. Take a look at your own workspace, wherever you happen to be sitting at this very moment. Ask yourself, what is competing for your attention? What completely non-essential item is sitting there generating friction for you? Before your very next study or work session, take just 60 seconds to clear it all away. Leave only what is absolutely essential and see for yourself just how quickly you can architect your own focus.
Thanks so much for joining me on The Explainer today, and happy building!